So the last releases from you were acoustic-based singer-songwriter, an album and an EP. Now Ian Parker, the blues man, has returned. The guitar slinger is back in town. Does that feel good?
Hi, Chris. Well, isn't this a new experience for us? Nice to chat to you. Um, both of us in different rooms, in different countries, in fact. This is a great idea, one of Mick's fantastic ideas. Superb. Thanks for your questions, man. Yeah, it does feel really good to be back playing the blues again, and I mean that sincerely. I think, you and I had lots of conversations when we were doing the acoustic trio. We were driving around the country or wherever else we were going, and we talked about it in great detail. So you know that I got to a point with the whole blues thing and my guitar playing and everything else where I just needed a break from it. Partly because my hearing was getting so damaged by playing electric guitar so loudly all of the time. But also just I needed to do something new creatively, which I know you were a big part of and very supportive of, Chris, which I really appreciate. And I really, really enjoyed developing that side of my musical persona, really. And I learnt a lot of stuff from stripping it right back to just me and acoustic guitar. Really learnt how to play the guitar in a way, in a very sort of fundamental sense, how to accompany myself on acoustic guitar. And I'm really happy I spent the time doing that. I had a great time. But now that I've been away from it for long enough, I feel really genuinely excited to pick up the electric guitar again and play some blues. I've got that buzz back, which I had when I was a teenager, and I completely lost that. I'd forgotten what it felt like to have that excitement. So it's come back. So yeah, man, it's really good.
So, can you tell us a bit about the recording process for the album and who was involved in that?
Well, actually, the whole thing came about by chance, really, Chris. I wasn't intent on making a new blues album at the time at all. I just started doing some blues gigs, mainly in a trio format with a couple of old friends of mine, David Jenkins on bass and Chris Finn on drums, and we'd gone out and we did a few UK dates, and it was good fun. But I wasn't at that point thinking I'm going to start working towards making an album. But by chance, we did a gig in Oxford at the famous Monday Blues in Oxford, which I'm sure you've done over the years with different bands. And a couple of young guys came up to me after the gig, and we got chatting. And they were from the SEA Institute in Oxford, doing a music degree there. And they just said, "Oh, it'd be really great if you guys would come down. We're doing some sort of project as part of their course, and we need to record a band. Would you come down and record a couple of songs?" And I thought, well, actually, I didn't think anything of it in terms of this could be the start of a recording project, but I thought it would be good fun to spend a couple of days, go in the studio and just have a play around, really. And actually, I went with Chris, the drummer, first of all, because Dave was busy doing other things. But Chris and I went down, and it was just completely relaxed, just a bit of fun. We weren't trying to achieve anything particularly other than to help these guys out with their project. But it turns out that, first of all, the facility there is absolutely fantastic, and also those guys are just really impressed me. This is a couple of guys. We've got Andres, who's a Colombian guy in his early 20s, and Alex, a Finnish guy. The two of them working together, just so creative and had all these great ideas. And because their background is not at all in the blues, it just felt really fresh, and they had no preconceptions about what a blues record or what a couple of blues songs should sound like on record. So I don't know, it just gelled. I had a great time. It was really nice to work with Chris again, because Chris and I played in a band when we were at school as teenagers, and he's a really creative guy, and we just bounced off each other and had fun and recorded a couple of songs to help them with this project. When we got them back and started listening to them, I thought, actually, this sounds like the start of a record. So then I started doing more writing, and we went back there over the course of several months, and Dave, the bass player, came down, and eventually we recorded 7 of the songs down in Oxford. And then I'd written a couple of other songs to sort of finish off, and we went into Yellow Shark in Cheltenham, where I've recorded in the past. Morg joined us for that session, Morgan on piano. and completed the album that way. So that it sort of came together through just a kind of through chance meetings. Really, it wasn't particularly planned to work out that way. But I think you can really hear that in the music as well. It wasn't like the normal, right, it's time to make the next album, let's go in the studio for a block set, block sort of 2 weeks, and we've got to get all of this done in that time. We were just going down for odd days whenever we could, down to Oxford, meet up with the guys, have some fun really. So it was really enjoyable from that point of view. It was great.
You're well known for your signature guitar sound, Fender Stratocaster into a Fender amplifier. Can you tell us about what other guitars and effects were used for this album?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting, Chris, because you will recall that when we were playing together, and it was the first time that I'd ever had two guitars in a band. We had those conversations about how best to make that work with two guitarists, and we tried different sides of the stage, or should we go next to each other or apart from each other. And we talked about I remember you talked to me about just trying to get. We were talking about my guitar sound and the fact that I would benefit from having a lower wattage amplifier and being able to drive the tubes a bit more. And at the time, I was stubbornly staying with my dual professional, the 100-watt dual professional. It's impossible to make it break up, So actually, in recent years, I have changed, and I'm actually using a Fender Deluxe now. So it's like half the wattage, and you can do that, and it's got 112 in it, and you can crank it up a bit more. And I got really into that. It's also physically smaller and lighter, which suits me. So I'm using that as my main amp on there. The Dual Professional's on there for a couple of, that Dual Professional's got that lovely vibrato. So some of the like clean rhythm guitar tracks in the background on the album, I'm using the Stratocaster and that. But a lot of the lead guitar playing is using the Deluxe. And I still use my Strat on there for quite a few things. The Strat, Telecaster, and then also an Epiphone 335. I'm pretty sure that I bought that. I got it on eBay. I think I bought it after I saw that John Amor had started using one when John made that fantastic album a few years ago when he started the latest project he had at the time, the Blues Group project, which I thought was fantastic, that first album that he made with those guys. And I've always been a big fan of John. I really have a lot of respect for him just as an artist, the way he's got a lot of integrity, and I thought that was a great record. And I thought, yeah, he looked great with his with that Epiphone 335 that he got. So I think that made an Epiphone seem legitimate to me, because I'd probably been a bit of a snob before that, and thought, if you're going to have a 335, it needs to be a Gibson. But I thought, quite fancy a 335 again, but I don't think I'm going to splash out on a Gibson. And then went on eBay and saw loads of these great Epiphones, and picked one up, and I use that quite a lot, actually. Quite a lot of the soloing on the album is with that. So, I mean, you talked about my signature sound, which I thank you very much for. That's a compliment to suggest that I have a signature sound. I'm not sure, when I'm playing my Strat, which I love to do, I always fear that it's too Eric Clapton, really, because Eric's influence on me is huge, And when I go in the studio, I try my best to try and find something that isn't doing that Eric Clapton thing, just because I can't help but do it live, really. But I'm always trying to look for something that I feel is a bit more unique or a bit more me, really, in the studio. So I often will try different guitars to help me to achieve that. So perhaps I don't know. But either way, I like the tone of the Epiphone. It worked out pretty well.
Now, your songwriting, it often avoids the cliches and the sort of stereotypical blues song ideas, and on this album there seems to be a theme, quite a political theme, and about inequality that seems to be present in some of the songs. So can you talk to us a little bit about the songwriting process for some of those songs?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Chris. The album is called Politik Blues, so there is an element in there of a sort of political observation, but it's not about it's certainly not about sort of party politics in the UK or anything like that. I have absolutely no desire to start expressing any opinions on that because nobody would have any interest in what my opinion is on things like that. So it's very broad themes, actually. Very different to my previous albums, because my writing in the past has always been about me, really, about my emotional life. This is not about that, because in the last 5 years I changed quite a lot as a person. I got myself more involved in my local community. So the things that were engaging me as a person, that are obviously the things I want to write music about, and that happens to be not necessarily about sort of me and relationships or anything like that, but about sort of wider societal things, I suppose. But I'm very, very guarded about talking about it too much, because I don't want to deliver any kind of message to listeners through this at all. In very, very broad terms, yeah, I suppose themes such as inequality. I mean, what happened with the financial crash and how that impacted people at different sort of layers or levels of our society or Western world society. I found that interesting and something that I wanted to write about in very broad terms. But also, it's just, I mean, I think it's about the politics of relationships with people. I don't mean necessarily romantic relationships. I mean, just, I think in any given situation where you've got two or three people working together, it could be a band or whatever else, you have politics involved in that. So it was the Politik Blues was meant to be an all-encompassing sort of term, really. It's not sort of as I say, strictly not a party political broadcast on behalf of anybody.
Tell us about your plans for touring this album. Will you be playing at some festivals this summer in Europe, in the UK? You've been touring up and down the blues scene for a long time, and with this release, does it find the blues scene in good health?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about going and doing some gigs again with the band, because I haven't done that for a while. Right now I'm in the Netherlands. We've had a couple of fantastic gigs so far, and I'm looking forward to playing again tonight at Dinut in Hoogland, which is always a really good gig. You've played that with me, Chris. So yeah, it's really, really. I feel like I'm very lucky that I can still, despite having taken people on such a journey where I decide right now I'm going to go and be a singer-songwriter, or I'm going to make a sort of country EP or whatever else I've done. It's really nice. I'm really lucky that people are still interested in coming to see what I've got to do next, really. I don't take that for granted, so I want to carry on doing it. It's not a secret that I'm not doing anything like the number of gigs that I was doing 2 or 3 years ago for a long period of time. I don't want to be away from home for those extended periods of time anymore. I've sort of changed my outlook on that, but equally, I never want to be in a position where I don't go out and play. So coming out and doing these sort of short trips for a week or so on the continent is fantastic. And we've got some nice festivals lined up. I'm going to Germany and Holland and Belgium for some festivals in the summer.
A lot of people have been wondering, and maybe you can put their minds at rest, how is Mick the dog these days?
Mick the dog is absolutely ferocious. He is ferocious. He's all over the blues scene these days. I mean, he is gone. He's huge. Honestly, his career has gone through the roof. But I'm very privileged that he'll still come out and play with me sometimes on tour like this. His tour management it's outstanding on every level. His filming is sensational. I mean, the man is a legend, and I'm very blessed to be in his presence. The amount that I'm able to be, he's astonishing.